I would just want to say thank you to Anu and the Programme Committee for this opportunity, and to Uri for the lovely introduction, and certainly to my panel for agreeing to participate. So hopefully this will be an interesting hour and a half or so. I'll just tell you a little bit about how we're going to run it. We're hoping that you'll have lots of questions for us. So we're each going to talk for about 5 or an absolute maximum of 10 minutes. We're going to keep it closer to 5 to 7 minutes each. And I'm going to attempt to be strict with the panellists on this, to give you a little bit of perspective about our views on the on the issues. And then we're going to have the rest of the session on Q&A, and we would love for that to be driven by you. So we're hoping that you'll have lots of questions. I do have some prepared in advance in case they're needed, but really we would love to hear your views and your questions. And then I also wanted to thank Sabine, because actually you did a great job without us having consulted at all. I think a lot of the issues and tensions that you raised are going to come up in some of what we're going to say as well. So thank you. Let's see if I can make this. Okay. So in fact, starting with this slide, which is my attempt to summarise some of what I think the key issues that we're all facing in scholarly communications are. It's by no means an exhaustive list, but I think these are some of the key areas that we're all trying to solve for. So discoverability, identification and recognition, access, impact and compliance. I could have put preservation and a number of other things as well, but these are, I think, some of the key issues. And I think the critical thing is that we're trying to do this, all of us, whether we're a publisher or a funder or a research institution, without imposing too much of an administrative burden on researchers. And I think, you know, with the move towards more evaluation and assessment, it's very hard to do that at the moment without imposing more of a burden on researchers. So the solution to this, I think, is the research infrastructure, and that's what we're going to be talking about. At ORCID, we call this digital plumbing. So you've got a nice picture of some copper pipes there. But really what we're talking about is these foundational services that are going to improve scholarly communications for all researchers, irrespective of their discipline, their country, their level, whatever. And I'm going to focus, because I'm from an ORCID background, on the area that we are most concerned with, which is names. So names are messy, whether they're names of people, places or things. There's a lot of inherent messiness in names. So can we clean them up? Well, yes, of course we can. And the solution is to use digital names, i.e. persistent identifiers, PIDs, that will uniquely identify the person, organisation or object to which the name refers. And these are some examples of some PIDs that are out there at the moment. You'll be hearing from Jeffrey shortly about Crossref. You're all familiar with DOIs, DataCite's another great organisation. There are more proprietary IDs like Researcher ID and Scopus ID, Ringgold. There's a lot of great stuff happening out there around the PIDs. And what we believe is that we need to work together to build this scholarly information infrastructure, and above all the nice little sort of no sign in front of the manual typewriter, what I think we all want to avoid and eliminate altogether when we can is manual rekeying of information, including manual rekeying of names or numbers. And for that information instead to be exchanged via API, so electronically. This is a little diagram of PIDs in action. So starting, yes, there we are. Starting at the top with the researcher submitting their manuscript, they then, as long as they use their ORCID ID when they submit their manuscript now, that ID will get submitted by the publisher into the Crossref metadata. When Crossref receives the metadata, they will include it in the DOI, and they will then automatically push that information back into the ORCID record with the researcher's permission. And once that has happened, that information can then get pushed back out into the various different systems that the researcher is using. So whether it's an information profiling system or a funder system or whatever it might be, those systems, if they're members of ORCID, can get automatically updated as well. So I'll just talk a little bit about ORCID. I don't want to go into this too much. Hopefully you're all somewhat familiar with what we do. Our mission is to solve the name ambiguity in scholarly communications for people by creating this central registry of unique identifiers for people, and then a linking mechanism that allows them to join up their ORCIDs with other systems that they're using, other ID schemes. A little bit about us, we're non-proprietary, we're open, we're international. Registry is free for use for individuals, so we rely on our members, many of you in the room here, for our sustainability and basically our data, our software, and we do have a public API, and our documentation are all open. So as I said, we're really looking to provide part of this plumbing for research information, and a sort of a very important side effect of that, we believe, is that we're also building tools that will create trust in digital information. So whereas if you're doing a lot of manual rekeying, there's a lot of room for error. If you're exchanging information digitally, you're much more likely to build trust. A few quick facts and figures. So we're close to 2 million registrants now. We have over 350 organisational members, over half of whom are in Europe and around 2/3 of whom are research institutions. We have 4 national consortia in Australia, Denmark, Italy and the UK, and 3 US consortia. There are over 200 live member integrations. There's actually a lot more that are not member integrations, but we don't really keep track of those as much because they tend to go off and do their own thing. We have at least 8 funders, including FWF, and Klaus will talk a little bit about this in a minute, that require ORCID IDs for their grantees. And we have around 15 publishers, and Stuart alluded earlier to the fact that the Royal Society now requires ORCID IDs for its authors, and around 15 other publishers recently signed an open letter committing to do the same. This is a little bit about how you can help, how we hope that various sectors will get involved. So whether you're a funder, a research institution, publisher, repository, or an association, you can really help both get the word out about ORCID, but much more importantly, get it embedded in your system so that it really starts to benefit the whole community, not just your organisation and not just the researcher. And that's it from me. I didn't time myself, but hopefully I didn't go over my allotted time. So I now want to introduce the rest of the panel, and we are going to be hearing first of all from Daniel Hook of Digital Science, then Klaus Zinnecker from FWF, then Alicia Wise of Elsevier, Matthias Razum of FITS Karlsruhe, and Jeffrey Builder from Crossref. So I'm going to let them introduce exactly what they do there and their perspective, but I'll hand over to them.